Hey everybody, it's Mike Venus La Soul and I'm back, aka the Maestro, aka Himikis Him. And I want to talk about the latest update on Ableton Note and also why I feel it's an underrated app and why on social media I don't know if people don't either have they don't have an iPad to use the app on to demonstrate, which I think is a better option of working with the app, or they're just doing it mainly for content. So I stumbled upon this guy's video and he was talking about it, but obviously I could tell from watching the video, um, he's not very familiar with the app as much as someone that might really sit down and actually use it. The app is really mainly used to be kind of like a sketch pad. That's why whenever with the move, which is the you know the more popular device on social media because it's like a miniature push, but it's limited because it only gives you 4 tracks. And though the same features that are featured in the move is in the note, a lot of people who were either Ableton certified or just excited when the app first came out, they never really explored it that much on the iPad. When I suggested, it was mainly because of the fact that I actually use it on the iPad. I experimented with it on the iPad to see if it's usable, because I personally I don't like the Ableton doll. Not saying that it's not good. It's just the way it's looked. Um, it can be overwhelming, especially if that's your first doll. Um, if it is, you learn it, you become good. Same thing like with FL. I think FL is an app that caters more to people who probably play video games on PC, you know, and with all the key commands and stuff like that, shortcuts, it's more suitable for someone to use it with, their keyboard and a mouse. You know what I'm saying? I personally, I don't like either doll. I prefer Bitwig just because I have the capability to build anything I imagine from synthesizers to MIDI, my own personal MIDI effects or sequencers, my own sampler, synthesizers, like I said, effects. You can build your own effects. You can build your own instruments. It's very, and save it as presets, and it's really cool. But that's another topic. So let me get into it. So first, um, Ableton Note, the pluses. It's an application. It only, like, if you want the full version of the drift synth plugin, the full version where you can make your own presets in that and use it in Ableton, it's an additional $3, but the app costs $7. So total, that's why I said it's like $10. You get everything, and you get a free version or a license of Ableton Lite. The same thing if you buy a MIDI controller. You know what I'm saying? And it's the only difference between Lite on the computer and Note is that Lite gives you more options to do additional audio processing. You can do MIDI effects, things of that nature. But Note is primarily set up to be a sketchpad, just like Move, just like the K2, just like MP Sample or MPC Sample. And that's why I threw that out as an option for anybody that was looking for a portable, um, iOS or like portable semi DAW to get started with beat making, or even like use in conjunction with your computer. Because I gave my reasons. The iPad is more inconspicuous. People don't really know what you're doing if you got one, if you're out and about. I use mine on the Mini. I have a Air, but I keep that in the studio or at my house. But my Mini I take with me everywhere, so like most people don't even know what I'm doing, which I like because that way it doesn't feel like they're, crouching upon my personal space, especially when I'm working or if I'm coming up with ideas. It's a great sketch pad. Um, Now with the latest updates and 2.1, or since they moved to the 2 version of the software, you get audio tracks. Now with the latest one, you can copy your MIDI clip and paste it into a clip for the audio, and it will turn it automatically into a loop, which is cool. I also use that to do some additional like sound designing. Like I could bring it in there and like process that sample, copy that clip with those effects on there, and then bring it into a drum rack and chop it up. Now, um, this guy he mentioned that when you go to slice the sample, and this is how I know he doesn't really use the app, you can adjust the slice points. You can pick from 1 to 16 slices, and you can make adjustments. Um, you can also, I say before you even get to the slice, you can change the pitch of the sample in the particular pad that you have in the drum sampler before you slice it up. But once you slice it up, it's gonna like take every other sound that was potentially in the kit and replace it with the chops. And then you have to go in and, if you don't want the chops to cut each other off, you have to disable the choke. But it's top notch. The only issue I have, well, I say issue, the I'll say it's not really an issue, but I can see it being a future update, is that in the mix they add panning, because you can adjust the volume, you can mute, you can solo, but I prefer that on certain instruments like the synths. um, you can't really pan sounds. Um, if you wanted to do like a rough mix before you send it either through Ableton Cloud, or you can airdrop it to your computer if you don't want to use Ableton Cloud. But Ableton Cloud is, if you send it through the cloud to your computer, the session pulls up, and it's mainly a sketch pad, just like the sampler, just like the Move, the K2, any of these small portable disc beat making devices. That's why I threw it out there. Um, I might, like I said, I might start doing more videos, kind of go more in depth about the app, because, like I said, with its launch, which was a couple years back, people were doing this shit on their phone. Now, using it on your phone and using it on your iPad is two different experiences. Um, I don't use it on my phone. I have it on my phone, but I prefer to use it on the iPad, right? And I don't know if Ableton is giving people certifications, if they're able to demonstrate or do tutorials and explain how to use Ableton Note. I think a lot of people that are Ableton certified trainers, they just, they stick to what they know. They work in the computer and teach it that way, or they might have a push 3, push 2, and be teaching that way, or they might have the Move. But even with the Move, it's not many videos. And I know there's a lot of like applications on the iPad or iOS devices, like what is it, the Koala sample. Um, Somebody made one that was similar to the SP202, the Boss SP202. You got that iOS app. You got GarageBand. You got Logic Pro. Logic Pro is more like a subscription. I'm not about that, so it's kind of like, I like to buy it once and use it to my discretion. You know what I'm saying? But it's a great app. I just feel like on YouTube, people should who if they're really gonna use it, even if they use it just like sparingly, kind of know how the device work. I haven't did any videos recently on it because of the fact that I'm getting familiar with the latest updates, and I'm trying to figure out maybe a new workflow on it or how I will use the latest updates. Also, you got audio link, which means if you're on the same Wi-Fi with your computer or with the Push 3 or with Move, you can link up and record your audio from Note into those devices. It communicates. Now you can't do it like you can't send Move audio into Note. They haven't established that, but you can send audio from Note and have it recorded into an audio track in Ableton on the computer or into the Push 3, right? So I think with just a few more minor, updates, this will be probably number one when it comes to just a sketching app, because that's what it's really set up to be, like an ideal starter. But you can make full beats on this and even arrange it out by the scenes. The other thing I wish they will add is the capture. Not like capture your MIDI, but capture, like if you playing clips and you want to make a scene, you can capture those clips, and when you want to capture it, it will paste all the ones that you are playing into its own scene, which is an amazing workflow that is in Ableton, that's in the Akai Force that I use, and also I have to check it if it's on Bitwig. I believe it is, and maybe some type of following thing where like you could kind of like set it up where it can arrange a certain way where like, because if you have it set up in your scenes, it's going to go from scene 1 down to 8. So let's say if you made a beat and you want to make a song, which you can bounce it down to a wave file, all the scenes, and then you can even, upload it to, like, I think SoundCloud, or, if you have some other type of distributor and it has that capability, you can upload it straight from the app. But if they have the the scene followers, so meaning like they have this in the DAW version of Ableton, even in Bitwig, and even on the Force or some other devices, where basically you could say, okay, I want scene 1, that's my intro, to play once, then go down to scene 2, have scene 2 loop twice, and then go to scene 3, which will begin my verse, 3 to 4, then to 5, then to 6, right? And then I wanted to go back up to scene 2, play that twice, and then go to scene 1 to play the out, kind of like a song mode, a rough sound mode, like they had in, on the MPC and stuff, the older ones. And when you bounce it down to a WAV file, it will follow that automatically, and then voila. Because you can do automation, you can capture automation, you can do all types of stuff on this app. You got the pad effects in each clip. It's really, for it to be so limited compared to the DAW version, it is very advanced if you really get into it. So no shade to this guy or any of the people on YouTube, but I just feel like if you're gonna talk about the app or you're gonna kind of get into it, really get into it before you do it. That way it's it's not getting shit on or marked as an underrated app, because I believe it's extremely underrated, and it can compete with a lot of these um, portable music production, beat making devices out here, from the Move, which is Ableton, MPC sample, or the K2, or any other portable beat making device. Even the Roland MC 101, MC 404, all those type of devices. You know what I'm saying? So, let me know what you think in the comment section. If you want me to kind of go into or do some screen recording, I won't be speaking on those if I'm demonstrating something, but I will explain what I'm doing in the description. So if you want to read that and on the side of your video when you go into it and follow along, then that's the way I can teach on that. Um, Anybody that is Ableton certified and see some of my things, hey, let Ableton know. Maybe they might come talk to me or something about it. But I feel it's by far a great product to get into the Ableton ecosystem. I like what they're doing with their ecosystem, and also a plus for me. Any Ableton, what's the word? Ableton project that's primarily using samples or audio, I can easily transfer that to either Bitwig or to my Kai Force. So all of this still works within my ecosystem of how I like to work. So let me know what you think. Till the next time, y'all be blessed. Mike out.